I didn't know that my identity was attached to my environment that I grew up in, my friends, my
Mm,
family, my organizations, all of the things that I was used to kind of
right,
just made up who I thought I was, right?
right.
And when I separated myself from that and I was going through certain challenges, I realized that we here.
Are those spirit fingers?
Yeah. Got to send you the good juju.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Conversations with Sharika. My name is Sharika Swaby, the Mind Reset Strategist, and I am your host. And today we have the wonderful Talmadge Spicer, Coach T Spice, and he's going to be talking to us all about having the guts to follow your guts. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation because he is a confidence coach, and I know that confidence is one of the reasons why a lot of people do not show up. Trust me, I had a lot of conversations in my head about showing up before I finally decided that I need to do that. So without further ado, I'm going to allow Mr. Spicer to tell you a little bit about himself.
Yes, indeed. Let's jump in. Thank you so much, Sharika, for having me
It's a
on this
pleasure.
on your platform so we can talk and we can spread the good juju all over. Uh, to introduce myself, yes, my name is Talmadge. I do go by T Spice or Coach T Spice, and I'm on a mission to inspire and empower 1 million people to live a life by design instead of by default. So what I found is one of the biggest barriers, one of the things that hold us back from living a designer lifestyle is just this lack of confidence, right? We don't really understand it as much as we say we do, as much as we would like to. And we do focus a lot on the external. We focus a lot on the results, right? And not we look at the fruit of the tree and not the roots of the tree, right? So we don't dive deep. So what I do is, if you want to live a designer lifestyle, if you have a vision for yourself, if you want to get out of the mundane routine, if you want to create generational wealth, if you want to travel the world, all of those things is really nice. And I kind of use that as a carrot. That's my secret. That's the carrot. That's what you're chasing. That's what you're creating. That's what you're manifesting. But in order to get there, it's super important that you create a deeper and more meaningful relationship with yourself. You're going to have to address certain traumas. You're going to have to address self-doubt. You're going to have to address a lack of vision if you don't have a vision. All of those things are what's underneath the soil, right? And then it sprouts up, and then you have this beautiful life. So I'm having a blast being supportive of people in that way. Uh-oh, can't hear you. It looks like whatever you're saying is phenomenal.
Right. You can hear me now, correct?
I can, yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I was just saying that we are so aligned because I have some of the similar beliefs. That's what I teach, actually, getting rid of the old stuff so that you can build something new. So I want to find out from you so that others, and I mean, I listened to your book and it was quite the story, right? And I want to find out from you so that others can understand, how did this journey of helping people to gain confidence, to live a designer life, how did that journey begin?
Well, long story short, I learned a lot of very important lessons the hard way. And I decided to be the type of support that I needed when I was jumping into entrepreneurship, coming from employment and the traditional way of doing things.
Okay.
But what pushed me into entrepreneurship was coming out of college and having $150,000 in student loan debt. Get excited. Now, I don't know if there's anybody else like me in the comments or anything like that out there. But if it was left up to me, $150,000 and $4,000 in a hardship program payment plan, I was like, when I get it, you get it, right? But my grandmother had co-signed on the loan, so this isn't something that I could have pushed off, procrastinated on, or kind of took my time with, because if they couldn't get a hold of me, they would get a hold of her and they would harass her.
Right.
That's what they did. So I was forced to kind of figure out a new way, like how can I start earning enough money so that I can pay off this debt, free my grandmother from the debt. She was very well-meaning when she co-signed on it, and I'm very grateful for her. God rest her soul at this point. But I was really attracted to the uncapped earning potential of entrepreneurship, because with a 9 to 5, with trading your time for money, there's only but so much money you can make, because there's only so many hours in a day, right? And you gotta sleep, and you gotta eat, and you want time for yourself and your family and all these things. So the amount of money that I was going to be able to make by trading my time for it was extremely limited. Whereas in entrepreneurship, the amount of money you make is based on how much value you can provide to how many people. And that does take time, but it doesn't necessarily take up as much time as being in an organization that pays you specifically for time. So with that new understanding and that new perspective of things, that I was going to have to find my way into entrepreneurship, I found myself aligned with an opportunity that brought me to Idaho and out of my comfort zone. And I was starting my first business out there. I was trained up by then, and I knew what I was doing, and everything was great until it wasn't, right? So what I had done without realizing it was I took myself out of not only my familiar zone, I don't call it a comfort zone, it's just familiar. And I didn't know that my identity was attached to my environment that I grew up in, my friends, my family, my organizations, all of the things that I was used to kind of just made up who I thought I was, right?
Right.
And when I separated myself from that and I was going through certain challenges, I realized that I needed to learn who I was for me, by myself, with and have my own visions, my own wants, my own desires, my own values. All of these things needed to be intrinsic to me, and they weren't. And without having that knowledge, without having that awareness at the time, it kind of drove me into a very dark space. They say it's the dark night of the soul, right?
Yeah.
My dark night of the soul lasted probably about 6-7 months. And I laugh and I smile about it now, but during that period, it was really tough, really hard, emotionally, psychologically. I remember it coming to kind of, I call it the peak of the dark soul of the night, because I had been considering suicide, right, for some time during that period. And one night I found myself on the top of a parking garage, the parking garage connected to my office. And I walked closer to the edge of the parking lot. And I remember looking over the edge and looking down at the pavement. And it was about 4 stories up, and just imagining, just what if you've been thinking about it. This could be it. You can just handle your handles right here, right now, and you don't have to worry about it anymore, right? So I found myself imagining myself falling to the ground head first and feeling the wind. And in that moment, from having that experience, that mental experience, that visualization, I realized that even before dying, it was a feeling of freedom, weightlessness. And I realized that I didn't actually want to die. I just wanted a release of pressure, right? I just didn't want to feel so pressured. I didn't want to feel so lost. I didn't want to feel so, without answers, right? Without direction.
Right.
And so, spoiler alert, I decided not to take my life.
Thank God.
Yeah, but the lesson was that it became very real to me that taking your life is a choice that you can make. Living every single day is also a choice. And if I were going to make that choice, if I was going to choose to live, then I needed to do it for a real reason, right? And that's when I started thinking along the lines of meaningfulness, legacy, and impact. And it still took me some time to kind of align with what that looked like for me. But that was the
Right.
very first moment when I realized that this is going to be bigger than me, or it's not even worth it, right? There's no point if there's no meaning to it, right? So I began searching for meaning. And also in that situation, in that experience out in Idaho, I uncovered an ability that I had to find the best parts of other people, right? I can seek and I can see the best parts of your strengths and your personality and who you are energetically, and I can show it to you in a way that you can receive it. And the people that I was working with would take the information that I gave them and they would go back out into the field. They would find success, and I thought that that was the most meaningful thing that I could do, is because you didn't really believe in yourself too much in the beginning, but I came through and I poured into your cup, and you went back out, and then you come back to me, I did it, I did it. And I was like, well, that's a better feeling than even getting paid. So I enjoyed coaching, being able to coach in that way. I was selling DirecTV. I wasn't passionate about that, so I got rid of that part and decided that my life was going to be about, like I said, being the support that I needed, switching from employment to entrepreneurship, because it's 90%, 95% mindset.
Right.
And I had to learn that the hard way.
So we have so many things in common. I've read your book. I listened to it, actually. We need to do something together, and we'll need to figure that out. But I've had those suicidal moments too, so I get it completely. When you're kind of weighing, is it worth it? And then I'm thinking, what's going to happen to the kids? And yeah. So I understand that completely. But talk to us a little bit about, because this is something that I think I have like 3 videos on my YouTube channel about identifying with your religion and your family, and not having an identity for yourself, and what that can lead to. So talk to us a little bit about that, your understanding of it, and how you help people to shift from being identified by all of those things that they were surrounded by, and their doctrines and the characters of their environment. Talk to us about that a little bit.
Right. So, being raised in, I think, today's society, I think all of us are exposed to the same thing where, when you identify with your surroundings, right, when your worth comes from external feedback, mostly 100% of your worth comes from external feedback, your goals and your values and things start to align with pleasing other people, because I'm happy when I can make you laugh, or I'm happy when you like me, I'm happy when you invite me out to this, that, or the other, and I think that when you live that way, it's so easy, because it's so easy for society to kind of take over your life, right? Get a job, go to school, do all the things, forget what you want to do. This is what we want to do, right? And because we give you your value, then we get to tell you what you value and what you're going to do, right? And I think that makes us susceptible and vulnerable to how society is set up to distract us from ourselves, right? It's so much easier to get caught up in what's popular as far as music is concerned, what's what everybody else is doing, because we want to fit in, because that's where our value is. But what happens when that's no longer working for you, when you want more, when you know that there is something inside of you that wants to be expressed, you have to figure out a new way to derive value, right? You have to find a new way to generate happiness, and it needs to come from within. So breaking away from that looks like a lot of meditation, a lot of doing the things you don't want to do, getting up early sometimes, going for that run, and you get to listen to a lot of boring books. Hopefully you find interest, or hopefully your why is big enough to motivate you and inspire you to do things a little bit differently. But I started meditating, I started practicing gratitude, I started working out, I changed my diet, I went vegan for a little while, I did so many different things, and I don't consistently do them all now, but I think that it's important for everybody to at least explore these different avenues, because every time you dabble with a new experience, you learn something new about yourself. Right? And these are experiences that you get to have with you, only you, and you get to define what the meaning is and where you're headed. Yeah.
I like what you said. You said you jumped into a whole lot of things. I did some of that too. I did intermittent fasting. I cut out some food out of my diet. It somewhat shifted my mind. I started the process of awakening for me, but that's another story, right? So tell us about the turmoil that one experiences when their identity is attached to maybe their culture or their religion, and something inside of them is, you probably know this feeling when you feel like something is clawing on your inside, wanting to get out, and there is this back and forth, because your identity is this, but you are something else. How do you handle, or how did you handle that back and forth?
Right. I think I've experienced it in so many different ways. Well, I experienced the same thing in so many different ways when my self-worth was reliant on some external force, with my intimate relationship, my religion, my race, all of these things. You're supposed to be this because of that. I call it putting the key to your happiness in somebody else's pocket. Right. And when you do that, I don't know if it's the intention of the external, stimulus or whatever, but it just seems like you're never going to be good enough.
Yeah.
You're never good enough. As much as your family loves you, they cannot hold the responsibility of 100% of your self-worth, right? So as long as how you feel about yourself is dependent on something external, you never really get that proud, fulfilled feeling. And you can make 6 figures a year. You can be a doctor of all doctors, and you can be the president. But as long as your self-worth is outsourced, right, there's gonna be a void there. Yeah. Right? This is something that we need to start internalizing and start developing and generating from the inside.
Right. Okay. I was listening to your book, and I think it was chapter 1 that says, it spoke about lying to yourself. So we tell ourselves a lot of crap that is nowhere near the truth, so we make excuses. What are some of the ways that you were lying to yourself, and that you find that your clients lie to themselves?
Ooh, good question. Good question. I'm going to take a moment on that one. There's so many ways. What's a big way? Here's the thing, like, it's always so much easier to see how somebody else needs to improve and how somebody else isn't doing it right. But when it comes to introspection, I'm thinking, how was I lying to myself? I definitely was telling myself that things were okay, when they weren't, that settling was okay, right? In different intimate relationships, in this idea, I've always wanted to move to California, right? So in order to get to California, my idea was to first move to Atlanta, because I'll have a network of fraternity brothers and sisters and all that stuff out there. I'll build up my network, and then we'll move to California. Instead of just moving straight to California, I was lying to myself and thinking that Atlanta was the key to what I truly wanted, right? And when I ended up moving to Idaho, same mentality. Okay, it's not California, but it's a lot closer, and that's not what you want, right? So we lie to ourselves to make settling okay. right? And that could be with your job. After moving from Idaho, I moved back home and I told myself that, hey, I don't need to, overcome these student loans. I don't need to make a bunch of money. I don't need to have a business. I just want a normal life, have a couple beers on a weekend. I want to clock in, clock out. I was lying. I was lying because I did want the freedom. I was capable of it. And I was just afraid of what it was going to take. I was afraid of what it required of me. It required me to step up and really show up, in my full potential. And I was afraid of that. So I lied to myself.
Right.
My clients, they do the same thing. Here's the biggest way that a lot of my clients, they lie to themselves. It's, I don't have the money or I don't have the time.
Okay.
The time one is really easy. The time one is really easy because when they say I don't have the time, my first question is, okay, where's your schedule? What do you use for scheduling? They don't have one.
They don't have
a schedule. So they're not tracking their time. So they don't know how much time they have, right? Or
right.
Don't have. So that's the number one way. And then 9 times out of 10, I'm not saying everybody, because some people are really crazy busy with kids and family and all these different things. But 9 times out of 10, I'll sit down and we'll create a schedule, and there's so much free time. There's so much time where you're not doing anything at all.
Yeah, I know.
And that's always a really good way for me to show support and get you more intentional about your time management. But when it comes to money, it's a little bit more tricky because we're dealing with a number that either is or is not in the account. But what we don't realize is how money is generated. Money isn't generated, because you show up. That's how most people do it. They trade their time for money. But instead, it's generated by the value you're able to offer, right? So while you may not physically have the money right now, if you had the idea and the way of delivering value to the market, you can generate a lot of money in not that much. That it doesn't take that long to generate a lot of money with a really good idea. So I get to support a lot of the people that I work with in first getting clear on what it is you want, what it is you have to offer, and then be consistent in actually offering and delivering what it is that you have, and that generates income. So you do have money, you have access to the money, and you can generate it with proper time management and creativity and the courage to actually step up and live a life of service.
I have a question for you. So if someone, but don't I have all questions for you? Anyways, someone doesn't have any money. I'm curious to find out how you get that person to start generating income, or do you not work with that person at all? They genuinely don't have the money, but they know that they know what they want, they just don't know how to get there. Have you ever had a case like that?
Yeah, all the time, a lot of the time. And I think it's just a matter of figuring out how to be creative. We have mental blocks, right? And limiting beliefs, especially around money. Money doesn't grow on trees. Money is super hard to make. You have to work hard to make a lot of money. All of these limiting beliefs. It takes money to make money. That's false. I can share a story. Matter of fact, my book sold over $1,000 worth of sales before I even wrote it, right? Because money is attracted to value, right? You're able to articulate a value that you have to offer. You can generate money without having any money up front. And it's more about being resourceful and creative than it is about having resources, right? So for somebody who doesn't have money, it's all about, here's what I'll say. If you focus on gratitude, if you focus on being grateful for what you do have, you'll realize that I can turn this little bit into a little bit more, and then that little bit into a little bit more. By being grateful for it, I can identify its full usefulness. So here's an example. somebody has $100 in their bank account. They think that they're broke, right? So they'll say things like, I don't have any money. I'm broke. I don't have any money. Meanwhile, if you say, thank you for $100 in my bank account. Thank you. I'm so grateful that I have $100. And thank you for $200 too, by the way, because it's coming. Now you're training your brain to start thinking like, how can I turn this $100 into $200? And you may not know right away, but you have a reticular activation system, the RAS, right? Is going to start looking for opportunities subconsciously to use what you have to get what you want. But if you say, I can't make any more money because I don't have any money, your brain goes, okay, got it. That's a done deal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's no need to look for opportunities and options because we already decided that it's not possible. But gratitude reverses that. Thank you for this, and how can I get to where I need to be or where I want to be? I think is the key. And the best part about it is it's free. You just got it just now. So if there's anybody watching right now, you just got the key to making money out of nothing.
Out of nothing. Okay. So, all right. So if you're broke, whatever little you have, be grateful and ask for guidance on how to multiply whatever little you have. Okay, great. Now, sorry. One of the things in your book was tell your story, right? Now, I wrote a book, right? I told a little bit of my story, not an awful lot, but I told a bit of it. And I sat on that book for several months before I actually published it. Because I was constantly thinking, what is this valuable? And I think it's incredibly valuable, but there's that thinking, right? That keeps asking you, you sure this is going to benefit someone, you know? So you have to make a decision to say, okay, yes, I'm going to do this. I know that it can impact people. And that decision has so much power, right? But it takes guts, right? Which is what we're talking about here. It takes a lot of belief in yourself. So at what point did you develop the guts to step away from the things that you identified with your relationship, your home life, your friends? At what point did you develop the guts to step away from that and step into your true self?
Right. I think that, my honest answer is that I always had the guts, right? Growing up, my parents, my father would say that, I was hard-headed. I would have to jump off the bridge to know there's water under there. There's the things that he would say to me. So that I took that as I wasn't afraid to do the thing that's off the path and explore and get curious and ask questions and find the answers and stuff like that. Society, however, tries to squelch that within you. They try to suppress that so that you'll follow this certain path, which is beneficial to, the powers that be, right? So it's less about developing the guts and more about identifying the fear when it comes up, right? And being able to have a solid relationship with yourself that you have faith enough to move through the fear because your gut is already there. It's already screaming. You feel it. We wouldn't even be having this conversation if you did not have that sensation within you, right? That's already there.
Right.
It's the fear that is interfering and stopping the energy that's coming from your gut to move into action and consistent action, right? So that, I think that takes awareness, that takes a level of practice, that takes a level of spending time with yourself to actually start to believe in yourself. And even if it's in a higher power, you get to build a relationship with the idea that you are protected, that you are guided, and that what is for you will not miss you, right? As long as you take the one step, the two steps, and show that you're committed, because whether it's your subconscious is learning from what you're doing, or if it's God looking down on you and seeing what you're going to do to determine whether you get that next blessing or not, is going to be up to you to be connected and have faith that that is true, and that we're moving, according to our gut, and that's the right thing to do. I think that a lot of us, we have the answer. It's not a matter of not having the answer. You have the answer. It's the problem is you doubt it. You doubt the answer, right?
Yeah. So okay, so you doubt the answer. You're afraid of the answer. There's a fear of stepping away because that's all you've ever known, right? You've only known going to church on Sundays, listening to the pastor. So as far as faith goes, your thinking goes no further than what the pastor tells you to think, or this is your community and this is the beliefs of the community, this is the tradition of the community, this is the culture of the community. And the idea of stepping away from that is very, very scary. So now, as you said, you have to identify that you are afraid, one, but you also are going to have to be bold and confident about the fact that you are something outside of all of that you know, which is scary because you're thinking, okay, what's my mother going to think? What's this person going to think? What the pastor is going to think? What my teachers are going to think? So we essentially place ourselves in a box then, and it's hard for us to even open the cover to peep out to see that there's something else outside of that, and so you can start to step out. So what is 2 or 3 strategies that you would recommend that someone who because as you said, we know we can feel that next person inside us trying to claw its way out and just not getting there, right? So what are 3 strategies that you would recommend that if someone who's watching now and might need to hear how to get from there to there, how would you advise that person?
I'm going to break it down. So I'm going to give 3 strategies off the rip, and then I'm going to break it down why it's important and how they work, right? 3 strategies to go from 0 to 100, right? From nothing to something. You want to meditate, you want to practice affirmations, but the most powerful strategy is subconscious programming, right? You want to do auto-suggestion. You want to get into your subconscious mind and start planting seeds with new ideas that pop up automatically, right? You want, one of the mistakes that I made was when I learned about positive thinking, I put it in my tool belt, right? And I would wait till things got negative, very difficult. And I would say, okay, Tal, now's the time. Think positive, think positive, think positive. And it was always too little, too late, right?
Yeah.
So when I left entrepreneurship and decided to re-enter into the realm, I knew that it wasn't going to be enough to just think positive. I needed to become positive. And becoming positive meant reprogramming my mind to address the thoughts and the ideas, the beliefs that were no longer serving me, and replace them through repetition in the music I was listening to, the content I was consuming on social media and YouTube and things. And, even intentionally listening to different, affirmations and books and things. Right when I go to sleep, your brain goes through this stage called theta mode, where your brain waves slow down and your brain is more open to suggestion. So right when you're going to sleep and right when you wake up, when you're feeling kind of groggy, you're there, but you're not all the way there, listen to affirmations at that point, and it changes the way you think. When you change the way you think, you change the way you feel. When you change the way you feel, you change the way you act. When you change the way you act, you're going to change and shift the results that you're going to get, right? So
stick up in before you continue. You said something, because I always say there's a difference between knowing a thing and being a thing. And you said think positive. There's a difference between thinking positive and being positive as a person. What is that?
yeah. I'm glad you pointed that out, because thinking positive, for me, the experience was it's all up here. I know I'm supposed to think positive. I know thinking positive is the key, but being positive means this is a complete transformation of my identity. Like, I'm not just thinking it. I'm not uh, intentionally just trying to generate, positive thoughts. This is what I do naturally. This is what I speak. This is who I am, right? I'm a positive person. I don't have to think positive. Positivity is all I attach myself to. It's all I consume, and it's all I put out, right? It's the same thing when it triggers me when somebody says, "Oh, I was trying to be nice," right? And I'm like, nice people don't try to be nice; they just are.
Are nice.
Right? So that just shows me that, if you're trying to be nice, if you're trying to think positive, that your identity is other than that. I'm usually very mean. I'm stingy. I'm not generous, but I was trying to be nice in that moment. Same thing for me. I was thinking negatively, but now I'm trying to think positive, right? So a shift in that identity is what was necessary.
Okay, now we can get back to the breakdown and why it was really important. I had to stop you there because I thought that was very important to point out.
For sure, but it all goes right in alignment, because who you are is going to be a result of what you think about most often, right? Where your brain goes, your body will follow. So by entertaining a lot of the things that are not aligned with what I want to create in my life most often is going to affect my identity as a person, right? I listen to nigga music all the time. I'm going to think I'm a nigga. I'm going to get nigga results. You know what I'm saying? Not that I'm not, but I'm just saying, like, that's an example. Like, we got to really pay attention and get really intentional with what we consume and the narrative that we accept, because people will tell you who you're supposed to be in the role that you're supposed to be playing as a Christian, as a Muslim, as a impoverished person, as an employee, as an entrepreneur. People will create a whole story and be like, if you're experiencing this, that means you're XYZ. And then we're quick to be like, yep, makes sense. Amen. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's our biggest way, our biggest way of giving away our power, is letting somebody else create the story while I'm on it. I do want to point out, because we've been talking about religion. One thing that I think a lot of us in certain religions get tripped up on, especially in Christianity, because I don't really have that type of experience in, other religions like that. But I think that we put God in a box, right? Christians put God in a box, right? And we outsource God to the limitations of a book, right? A book that a lot of you haven't even really fully read, but that's where God lives. That's where God exists, and nowhere else. God lives in the church and nowhere else, right? And while I don't believe that's accurate, that God lives everywhere, right, and moves through everything, but it's most detrimental when you separate yourself from God, right? That when you go to church all the time and you read the Bible and all that stuff, but you haven't realized that God lives within you, then you're not going to be sure when you have that inkling, when you have that idea, when you have that calling to move forward, you're going to second guess it. They say, well, let me consult with God on it. I'm like, what you waiting for?
It's God that gives you the idea.
Yeah, God is here right now. God is talking to you right in the moment, live and direct. You know what I'm saying? So it breaks my heart when I see a separation, that God is other than me, that God, is the source and creator of all things and lives in all things except me.
Except me.
No, you're all connected. Your makeup, your chemical makeup is of God. What you're speaking, what you're seeing, everything is of God, and you get to trust and believe in that, because now you get to experience what it's like to be covered, to be protected, to be guided at all times. You don't have to wait. You don't have to wait till Sunday. You know what I'm saying, to get a word.
Right. Perfect. I think we can wrap up on that note though.
My bad. That's just what God was channeling for the kids.
That was perfectly said though, and I agree 100% because where I am from, a lot of the most unfulfilled people are people who go to church. So I stepped back one day. I don't know if anybody else has a similar experience, but that was my experience, right? So one day I stepped back and I'm like, okay, if you read the Bible, the people who were children of God, who were recognized as God, like God, or Solomon and David, these people, they were wealthy, they were successful, they believed in themselves, they were kings and queens, right? And yet, here we are in modern day society, we're believing in the same God, yet some of these people, they never even go outside of their communities, right? They teach at the same basic school for years, not saying that anything is wrong with teaching, but I don't feel like they've lived up to their to their full potential, because you know that there's so much potential in every single one of us, right? And there's that thing when you are some Christians, not every Christian, but some of them, that's just it. And they live their lives in poverty, and they tell you that it's humbling, and and then they walk and ask the rich people to support their events and their causes, which I don't know how long that psychology is going to take to get unraveled, but that's another story, right?
Mm-hmm. We'll jump into it.
Yeah, but let's talk about giving yourself permission to have that lifestyle that you spoke about initially, right? The permission to travel, permission to go to beautiful places, to spend nights in hotels, to spend nights on beautiful beaches all over the world, to have a beautiful family. Let's talk about permission to be that individual, to have that family, to have that amount of money, to have that lifestyle. How does one give themselves permission to do that?
I think first we get to realize that we grew up hearing no a ton, and like, what happens if it goes wrong, right? What happens if it doesn't work out? Let me protect myself. Let me protect the little bit that I have. Let me not risk anything, right? And with that mindset of lack and limitation and scarcity, and there's only but so much to go around, and if I need to get it back, I need to bust my ass to do it. It kind of, like we've been saying, puts you in a box, right? So what I've come to realize is that there's always going to be a gazillion, a made up word amount of reasons why you can't have the thing or can't do the thing. There's always a million reasons why you can't do it, but there's only going to be one reason why you do it, right? And that's because you want to, or you deserve it, right? And if you are able to just focus on that and really feel and believe that, then all of the other reasons get to disappear. They get to go away, because they won't go away, but you're equipped to now overcome them, right? If you want to travel, right, and then you say, okay, I want to go to Tahiti, or I want to visit Jamaica. Your brain automatically says, yeah, but what about this? What about your bills? What about the kids? What about your grandma? What about this, that, and other? What about the job? They gonna miss me. They ain't gonna miss you. But your brain, brings up all of these reasons why you can't.
Yeah,
all of the excuses, and eventually it just gets overwhelming. You're like, you know what? It's easier to just not go, right? Rather than, hey, I'm going, and I'm going to let all that other stuff take care of itself. I have faith that all of those things are going to take care of themselves. They say that we are afraid of the unknown. And my paradigm shift is that we're not. We're not afraid of the unknown, but instead we're afraid of what we project into the unknown, right? So the same way that we don't know how things are going to go right, if it's going to go right. We don't know if it's going to go wrong, but we're so much more willing to believe that it will than believing if it's going to go right. So we get to pump the brakes on that, and we get to decide that what is aligned for us, what we're being called to, is the thing that's best for not only us, but for the people that we love, the people that's closest to us. Maybe taking that flight to Jamaica is the best thing that you can do as a parent,
right,
for your child, because you get to come back with a full cup, come back overflowing, and being able to give to more people. You know, I think that it's important. It's important that we prioritize self and not have this negative connotation on being selfish. I think that we got it backwards. I think that people pleasing is selfish. Self-care, however, is selfless, because you love yourself so that you can love other people. You know, I feel like I'm going to did I say something to somebody? So, tap on your neighbor, say, neighbor.
It's funny you brought that up. I probably only have time for one more question, but I want to mention something. So I have this gentleman. He's a parent at my son's school as well, and he purchased a copy of my book. So we were talking about 2 mornings ago, and he was saying, I like the stuff in your book except for the self-love part.
Yeah.
He doesn't believe in self-love. So he's like, I said to him, one day I'm going to sit down and try to explain it to you, because his thinking is that self-love is selfish, and not selfish in a good way, but his thinking is that it's a negative thing, which it's 100% is not, right? But I told him I'm going to spend some time and try to break it down for you so that he gets a good understanding of it. But we have time for one more question, well, maybe 2. I can tell that you're into spirituality, as in the practice, right? Now, I have heard the term before, or the statement before, I am not a spiritual person, right? Now, you know, I can tell that you know that we are spirit, right? We're just disconnected from what we are. So once you identify and give yourself permission to be who you are, then you start reconnecting with spirit. So what I want to ask you is, I know you do meditation, but how do you help your clients to own your clients to own their spirituality?
I show them. I think that's the most effective way. Is you've got to be able to overcome the barrier of the conscious mind, right? The programs, the beliefs, the limiting beliefs, a lot of them, and get down to that subconscious mind, right? So where I think a lot of people make the mistake of teaching, preaching, and, you know, telling people things. I guess you could call it like a backdoor approach. I love questions. I love questions. I want to guide you by getting you to consider things that you haven't considered before. And then when you go to those places in your mind, you're like, oh, I didn't even know that was there. Yes, that feels very true and it makes sense, right? And that, I think, is the most effective way to plant a seed and have somebody else take on a new idea, is having them feel that it is their own idea. And it is, but I'm giving you the experience of discovering the part of you yourself, instead of just telling you, you need to meditate. You're like, yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I know. You know what I'm saying? Instead, I would ask, what would it feel like to be less anxious and to be more confident in yourself? What would you say if I told you that meditation, could provide that experience for you? Like, wow. So all you're telling me is that in order to feel what I'm imagining right now, I just need to be still and meditate. That's just one like really soft example, but it's just a counterintuitive approach to giving someone a firsthand experience, instead of just like everything else being an external stimulus that's telling you who you are, what you should do, and all that stuff. And I redirect people to their inner world because that's where the truth lives. That's where your light lives. Give me what's
Beautiful.
true for you. Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful. All right, so my final question, which is the question I ask all my guests. What are 3 or maybe 5 affirmations that you practice on a daily basis to help you maintain a state of being, your desired state of being?
I've got so many. You already know. And they're like, but one is really like echoing for me, right? And here's the thing. It's different, but it's so powerful for me. So I don't know how everybody is going to take it. But the affirmation is, I love this. I love this. I know that we usually start off with I am, and I am joy, I am peace, I am love, I am light, I am wealthy, I am powerful, I am committed. I can do affirmations like that all day, but I love this encompasses so many of the affirmations and shows you that it reiterates to yourself that you're just grateful for life. You're enjoying your experience. You're filled up. You're excited. All of the things is, I love this. I love what's happening. And it's been particularly powerful for me. I know that I said I wait for things to be negative, and I was like, think positive, think positive. And I stopped doing that. But this has been powerful for me in a hard workout. This has been powerful for me during, doing things for my business that I don't really want to do, that I'm nervous about, taking big steps, doing a whole bunch of things that you feel resistance to. When I say I love this, it just changes my whole energy and my whole approach to the thing. And it's like, yes, this is a part of the process. This is a part of the journey. This is a part of the game. And if you have resistance to any part of it, you have resistance to the whole of it. So if you're going to live a designer lifestyle and you really love that idea of creating that, you get to fall in love with every step of the way. So I love when I wake up in the morning and I say I love this. When it's the sunshine, it's the rain, I love this conversation.
Yeah, and I love that affirmation too, because immediately when you say it, I heard I am grateful. Yeah, so well, that's a beautiful share. So, Mr. Spicer, I think we're gonna have to have a second conversation. This was absolutely amazing. And I'm sure the guests, I see we had a ton of people passing through. So thank you everyone who hopped on here, who joined us. Talmadge is sending you some good energy with the spirit fingers and all of that stuff. So this was beautiful, Talmadge. Thank you so much for joining us here. And guys, check Talmadge out. He is a champion for following your guts, right? And we all have that feeling, that nudging, that nagging feeling telling you to go left when you keep going right, and you keep crashing, but you're still going right, and you crash again and you're still going right when you should actually be going left. So he's the guy to check out if that's your area of struggle. Again, I am Sharika Swaby, the Mind Reset Strategist, and this was Conversations with Sharika. If you want to hear more conversations, please do follow me. I have one with someone here who is dedicated to changing your life every single Thursday. So follow me so that you can get the update, you can see the poster, and you can become a part of the conversation. You can learn something, because that's what we're here for: expansion, inspiration, and living the spirit finger life. Anyways, okay, so if you need to buy a copy of my book, please go to my link in my bio. You'll see that in there. And Talmadge just put his info in the comments, so you can check him out as well. follow me here and follow me on YouTube as well. If you want to see a replay of this conversation, it will be on my YouTube channel. So that is all for today. I hope you guys had a wonderful time with